Hello, and welcome to the recorded walkthrough for Cal eGrants Participant Data Module. Today's recording will take about 30 minutes, and we will cover how to manually enter participant data, bulk upload participant data, enter services, update services, and submit participants. To begin, the landing page for Cal eGrants does have two different sides to the platform. We share this platform with ETP. So if you're ever having issues logging in, just reach out to the research unit inbox. It may be the case that you're trying to log into the wrong side of the platform. However, if you click this login button in the upper right-hand corner, it should route you to a login page, and you would enter your credentials to log in. And it's going to take you to where you left off on this platform. So you may end up under funding opportunities or applications, wherever you were last logged in. Today's walkthrough, we're going to focus on the participant data tab. And this is what the landing page looks like. You see there are two buttons, one to enter data manually or upload data. And for today's demonstration, we'll go ahead and start with entering the data manually. Once you select that button, you'll see a pop-up window appear. Any field you see with a red asterisk is going to be required by the system. So you'll need to make sure all required fields are completed. You'll notice once you get to this Social Security number question, there is a yes or no response available. If you have the participant's Social Security number, you'll select yes. We will need you to enter the full Social Security number here. This platform is not like CalJobs that would require a pseudo SSN if you didn't have the full number, or you wouldn't want to enter the last four. We use the Social Security number to pull base wage information, and to do so, we do need the full 9-digit number. So if you have that information and the participant feels comfortable providing it, please enter it here. You'll notice if we select no for this question, the field does not appear. So it's conditionally required if yes is selected here. For this demonstration, I'm going to choose no and save this information, which will create a participant in the system. Once we hit continue, we'll be routed to the participant information section. And similarly, to enter any of this information, you'll click the pencil to the right of any field, and a form will appear that indicates which fields are required. You'll need to sit down at a time that you're able to complete all of this information, because partially entering information isn't an option. The system will not save information if any of these red fields are left blank. So just keep that in mind. And you can go through and complete the fields however you'd like. They don't need to be completed in any sort of order. But as I mentioned, you'll want to make sure you can do that all at once. If you're ever not sure what we're looking for in a field, you can hover over these little eyes next to the text for the field, and it will actually provide a definition of what we're looking for, and it gives you a bit more information if you aren't sure exactly what this question is asking. So just keep that in mind. And once we get to these text fields, you would need to enter a figure here, but if a participant does not want to share a piece of information like household income, individual income, or household size, you can enter 99 to indicate that that information is unavailable. These are pick lists. You can just scroll through and find the most appropriate response. Just keep in mind that there are additional options if you scroll through. The desired occupation field does have a character limit, just so you're aware. If a participant or case manager enters a full sentence or includes any special characters in this field, you may run into an error message. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so it looks like I have completed all of the fields marked with a red asterisk. I'm gonna go up and just double check. Okay, so now I should be able to save this information. You can click save down here on the bottom of the screen in the middle. And as long as everything is completed, it will allow you to save this tab. Now, as a participant progresses through the program, you'll need to enter service information. And let's say that this individual is receiving supportive services. To do so, you would go over to the appropriate tab that you want to enter service information for and select the New button over on the right-hand side of the screen. Another pop-up will appear that allows you to enter details about the supportive service or any other service you're trying to report information for. So this may have been a service related to transportation that was provided by the local AJCC. And maybe it was today. And we'll mark this as, we'll mark it as in progress. I do want to show you, you can update the status of these services and then scroll through this pick list similar to that information tab, and you can select the most appropriate type of service. You can now save this entry. All of the fields have been completed. And just want to go back to show you now this individual is enrolled. You can see there's an enrollment date entered because we have services entered as well. Their status is reflected as in progress. You can go into the entry, and if you want to update the service status that you've entered already, you can see there's the status listed in the system. You would just open that service and again, click that little pencil to the right of the field and change it from in progress to completed. Now you can save that update. And if we refresh this list, you can see that now it's reflected as completed. If a participant receives any sort of credentials throughout the program, you can report those here. It's going to be a similar process. You would just complete those red fields. Once you mark this question as yes, these fields do become required, and you can see that if you try to save any incomplete information, it will not allow you to do so. So now this participant is progressing through their program, and just want to switch gears really quickly to show you how to upload a batch of participants, this is the best method if you are hoping to maybe upload an entire cohort at once. And you would need to download the template as well as the code book for any of the tabs that you'd like to upload. So always make sure you upload both of them together. You would just click the link here and it will automatically download from the system. And when adding new services, you'll want to use this new template. And that's true for all of the different types of services as well as credentials. You have the option to upload the services once they've been completed. You can also upload in services that are in progress and update their status to completed as they finish a training or different service. But if you select this template here, it's going to give you a blank template. So you have to fill in all of the information manually to match what has already been entered in the system. There is a more efficient way to update services, and we'll get to that in just a bit. But you'll always need to upload the participant information first to get the individual enrolled in the system. And I do have some templates pre-filled. So I can just show you what they look like um, for the sake of time. So I did enter some of this test data already. We'll go ahead and upload these participants to the system. I just wanted to show you what the template looks like. When you download it from Cal eGrants, it will only have this header row filled in. You'll need to complete all of the rest of the data and required fields. It may not look very intuitive, so that's why you need the code book to identify which codes need to be entered. Sometimes it's a letter, sometimes it's a number, and just to give you an idea of what the code book looks like, this is a sample. So it has each of the fields, whether or not the field is required, and what code needs to be entered for the appropriate available options. So as you can see, there are some letters, some numbers, just depends on the field itself. And you'll always want to reference this code book, at least at the start when you're getting familiar with the codes. Once you become a little bit more familiar, it may not be as required to references as heavily, but that's where you would find that is just download it from Cal eGrants when you go to upload the data. So just a couple of things to point out here. As I mentioned, the Social Security number, if a participant doesn't want to provide their full Social Security number, you can leave this field blank. We do recommend you at least ask the participant and provide that information in the form of a disclaimer of why we're collecting it and what it's being used for. But you'll notice you can enter the full number without any hyphens or with the hyphen. It doesn't matter. The system will actually recognize both and accept either of those entries. If any of these other fields are required by the system but missing information, you will need to you'll need to include all of the required fields because if a field is left blank but it's required, the entire row will fail when you go to upload this template. So then you can come back into the template, update any fields that were left blank or maybe coded incorrectly, and then re-upload this template to the system. Okay, so it looks like everything is filled in and we're not missing anything. So we'll go ahead and upload this template to our grant. This is an HRTP cohort, so you'll select the template that you're uploading. And as long as the system is able to recognize the file you uploaded, you'll get that green banner. That doesn't necessarily mean there weren't any errors in the upload. It just means that it was uploaded in the correct format and no changes were made to the header row. Those are some things that pretty commonly will cause the system to reject the file altogether. So you'll want to make sure that you upload the template in the same format that it was in when you downloaded it, and you didn't make any changes to the header row. So just to give you an idea, once the template uploads to the system, you'll receive an email indicating either a row has failed or a number of rows have failed, and you'll have a link to the errors report here. This one is actually old. I just had it pulled up to show you what they look like. So in this case, one of the rows failed, and I could click this link to take me to the errors report. Alternatively, your upload would be successful and no errors from the system register, so everything was successfully added. Either way, you'll get an email to tell you what happened when you uploaded your template. You can refresh your list to see if anything went through. I don't believe there are any errors in our template, so all three of our participants were added to the system successfully, which is great. But if you did receive an error and maybe didn't see the email, you could always access your errors report here. You can also go to the More tab on the top navigation bar and Reports. Either way will get you to the errors report here. I like to sort mine descending. It may do that automatically for you, but that keeps the most recent errors up top. You can also drill down a certain day's attempted uploads to just consolidate the list. As you can see, I have quite a few attempts. I play around in this sandbox site quite a bit. So I like doing that. It just makes things a little bit easier to digest. And then you scroll over to see what the exact error was. They're typically pretty straightforward. If you ever run into an error that you're not sure what it means, just reach out to the research unit inbox and we can help troubleshoot what you might be experiencing. Now we'll go back to the participant data tab. These individuals have been enrolled now, and you can see all of the details successfully uploaded to the system, so it's already all filled in for us, which is nice. It saves quite a bit of time if you're able to just upload your participants. Now, to enter service information, you're going to download that new template, as I mentioned previously. Similarly, I have a pre-filled training service template completed just for the sake of time. But it's going to be that same process. So you download the template. You'll notice now there's a column for participant ID, and I'll show you where to retrieve those. But again, only this header row will be completed when you download the template. You want to make sure not to make any changes to these header rows ever. Otherwise, it will cause the system to reject the file. And let's go retrieve those participant IDs. So once you upload your participant information template, the system will generate a list of IDs for you, which you'll actually need for each subsequent template that you upload. These are the 4 participants that I've added to the system so far, and these are the 3 that were included in the upload. Currently, this list doesn't identify which grant program that a participant is enrolled in, but we are working on adding a column for that information so that you can easily determine which participant they are, or which grant program the participant is being served in, because grantees that have more than one grant, it can get a little confusing. This will be an aggregate list of all of the participants that you've enrolled. So just keep that in mind to know who is being served by what. So you can just copy the participant IDs over from that list, paste them into this column. that's the best practice, just to make sure that you have the ID entered correctly. Otherwise, you may receive an error. So it looks like everything has been completed. And again, there is a code book that you would reference for the training type or training course status. It's a bit shorter because there's not as many fields, but you would want to make sure you enter the correct code. This is what that looks like. Now that we've entered their participant IDs, we'll go ahead and save this template and upload it to the system following that same process as before. And then we can go ahead and open any of these entries to see if the service is successfully uploaded. You'll also receive that email. I just like to check. Sometimes it's a little faster. So these are the two training services that we had entered on the template. They're now listed in the system. And wanted to go back and show you. So if you wanted to update the status of the services that have been successfully uploaded, you do have the option to download this update template. I'll show you what a copy of that looks like. And just so you can see, it is going to be more of a I think there's just extra work that goes into this route because you have to enter all of the information manually. It can be useful if you maybe have a lot of services that you've entered into the system so far and maybe only want to update certain rows. You can always copy information over from a pre-filled template that's available, and I'll show you where to find that. Um, but it is a little easier just to upload the pre-filled template. So if you go over to grants and then go to, sorry, I went a little fast there. So going back to grants and then find the appropriate grant for the services you'd like to update, go to the reports tab on this page, and it's a training service that we're looking to update. This template is nice because everything is pre-filled for you already. It has the participant IDs, it has the training service ID, which is a combination of the participant data name and service name. So those would have to be entered manually otherwise, and that information can take some time to find. That's why we always recommend just using this pre-filled template. You can make updates directly in the template. So if we wanted to change a course from in progress to complete, we would make those changes directly in this template. At that point, we would also need to indicate a completion or withdraw date if they withdrew. Save those changes. These templates are also nice because it has the date that the template was downloaded, so helps you keep track of the most recent version of this. And following that same process for uploading data, we'll then go back to this upload data window, and it's a training service that we're updating. And update this one that we downloaded today. Now, if we went back into one of our participants' entries, just to double check that they successfully updated, you'll see that the status is now listed as completed and there is a date of completion here. Okay, as participants are exiting programs and they're finished receiving services, you can upload this exit information, milestones, and post-exit outcomes to document any achievements from the program. Just to take a look at that template and what it looks like. We have our 3 participants. They have now exited the program, and all of these other fields become required at that point. If you would prefer to enter some of the information as it's achieved, you can do that. Most of these fields are actually optional until they exit the program. So you would just indicate no here if they're still enrolled, and then you can always enter the information as it happens. But once they do exit, you would need the exit date and to complete the rest of the fields. Let's update the exit date to today. And we'll save that information. I believe the rest of our fields are already completed. Always use that code book to reference exactly what code you need to enter. And done with that. So we'll go ahead and upload this exit information template. Now, feel free to leave a participant exited until the end of the grant term, at which point you can final submit a participant as long as all of the information has been completed. We recommend holding off on any final submissions until the end of the grant term because once an individual is submitted, grantees are not only locked out of making any changes or adding additional data on their end, but actually internally on the CWDB side, we can't make any changes to that entry either at that point. So it's a best practice just to wait until the end of the grant term, and it's okay to indicate that they've exited until that point. But it looks like everything has been completed. We can always go back in and double check what has been entered is correct. You'll want to make sure that under this question, which services were provided, it's one of the first under the exit information section, that it matches the services that you've actually uploaded. That would prevent an individual from being final submitted if you had indicated that maybe training and career services were provided, but only training services were entered, for instance. I'm not going to do that here because I only provided training services to this individual, but just wanted to note that it would cause an issue. So everything looks to be entered correctly, and we can submit this individual. There's 2 ways to do that. You can either click the final submission button up here, and a warning comes up indicating that the data becomes read only. So it's okay to wait until the end of the grant term again, but if you are certain that this individual has finished receiving services, you would hit final submit. And back on your participant data landing page, the status is now reflected as submitted. So this participant now is locked from making any changes. If you wanted to come in here and update an address or a status of something that was maybe entered incorrectly at intake, we can't actually do that anymore. So just to show you what that would look like, you receive an error in the system. One thing I maybe forgot to mention actually at the start is that This participant information section should only be collected and reported once at the time of program intake, and it's okay if some of these fields change throughout the program. You would want to document those changes in the exit information section. So just keep that in mind. It's okay if this reflects their situation at intake. And there's a little reminder about that up here as well. So now let's say we're approaching the end of the grant term and we are ready to final submit more than one participant at a time. You can do that in bulk by going to this grants tab again, select the appropriate grant, and here under the participant data tab, you'll click the bulk submit button and it will show only the participants that are eligible for submission. You would select a participant by checking the box to the left of their row, and you can submit more than one participant at once that way. And then refreshing that list tells us that now all three of these participants are submitted, and this this participant wasn't eligible because we hadn't entered any services, any exit information, and they're still completing all of their training. So they're not eligible to be submitted until all of that is entered correctly. So that was the extent of the walkthrough that we had planned. And just to recap, this is a sort of checklist of what needs to be entered before you can final submit a participant. All of the participant information details all services that were provided. If a participant received a credential, you would need to enter that information as well as the information in the for post-exit outcomes, exit information, and milestones. They're broken up into 3 sections if you're doing that manually, but they're all included in one template if you're bulk uploading that data. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to the research unit by emailing researchunit@cwdb.ca.gov. We also have quarterly office hour sessions scheduled that allow you an opportunity just to come and ask questions, troubleshoot anything you might be experiencing. But we try to make ourselves pretty available. So if you ever need assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you for attending today's training.